Welcome back, guys. Today's video is going to be a good one. The topic came up after I watched Nico and Luke Combs discuss Luke's watch collection, actually part of his watch collection. The thing that stood out to me in this video wasn't so much Luke's collection, but it was the stories behind some of these timepieces in his collection. Because think about it, guys. If we want to see the same timepieces, even though they were amazing, we could look at hundreds of videos on YouTube. But what made the video unique and interesting was the stories behind his timepieces. So guys, in today's video, we're going to discuss the importance of having great stories behind our watch collection. So before we get into the video, give the video a like, hit the subscribe button, and let's get into it. So guys, what I'm going to do is highlight some of the points in Nico's video in his discussion with Luke Combs. And I'm also going to give my story behind my first Rolex that I believe you guys are going to enjoy. Let's be realistic. Not every timepiece we purchase will have a meaningful story behind it. Trust me, I'm one of those people that purchase some timepieces just because I saw it and it just looked good. But then there's other cases like my first Rolex where the story was amazing and interesting, especially if I had to tell it to you guys. So now I'm going to kind of like summarize it, making a long story short. Now, prior to purchasing this Rolex, I was doing my research. I was doing my homework online, watching videos, looking at pictures to make sure I knew everything I needed to know before purchasing my first Rolex, which it was a Datejust. So I saw it on a website. I wasn't ready to buy this timepiece. Trust me, I wasn't working at that time. But the interesting part of the story is I wanted to purchase the timepiece because I was about to start my first big boy job. Big boy job as far as good money.
Get money.
So what happened was I got the call as far as receiving the job offer on a Monday. So I would have been starting the job the next Monday. Me counting my eggs before they hatched, I decided, okay, it's time. Because I was like, I'm gonna be making this much? Okay, I could afford it. I'm rich, bitch! At that time, I had some savings, but I didn't have the exact amount to purchase the timepiece. But I wanted it. I wanted to reward myself for actually landing the job at that time. So what I did was ask someone for, I think, 10% of the total cost of the timepiece because I had the rest. And I ended up pulling the trigger that weekend, that Saturday, when I was starting the job on Monday. So that Saturday, I made the trip 3 hours away, sick to my stomach because I was making a purchase over the weekend at a time where I couldn't go somewhere to have it looked over or evaluated or have the timepiece open to know if the movement was authentic. So I was taking a risk. The drive back home was stressful, but in my mind, I was like, okay, once the week comes, I'm gonna take it to a watch shop and have them open it to evaluate it. Hey, long story short, I made a good purchase. I got a good price for it and it was fully authentic. The case, the movement, everything was perfect. And I kept that timepiece for a very long time. And I think after that watch purchase is when the watch bug really hit me because of owning a Rolex. Once you get your first Rolex, guys, it just opens the floodgates to you just feeling yourself.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Almost, you know, like you're feeling yourself. You're just like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that's kind of where it started for me. But enough about me, guys. Let's talk about Luke Combs' watch collection, part of his collection. And the first one is his story behind his first Rolex and his first visit to the Rolex AD. Now, his experience started off like most of us when we visit a Rolex AD. I'm going to put up the clip actually so he could explain to you guys how that experience went. So let's check it out.
I walked into the store and I just asked the person behind the counter, I was like, hey man, I'm looking for, you know, Yachtmaster 2, stainless steel. And they're like, well, you can't just get those. I remember they said that, you can't just get those. And I'm like, well, correct me if I'm wrong. We're in the store that would sell that, right? In my opinion, where the hell else am I going to get it? You know what I mean? Like, they're not selling them at the grocery store.
No, at McDonald's, no?
Right, and so She's like, oh, well, you can't just get those. And I'm like, what do you mean? How can you not? It sounds like you can't get those is the problem. So anyways, I remember saying, I was like, that's too bad, you know? And I was probably wearing something similar to this, but probably with like gym shorts, like athletic shorts. And I was like, oh, that's too bad. I was like, I'm playing, playing Madison Square Garden tonight, so I'm gonna wear it on stage. And they're like, well, that means we may have one laying around, you know? And they were like, you know what? We got one that's on hold for a guy. Let me call him and see if it's okay if I sell it to you. So they went.
So as you just saw, his Rolex AD story is almost like mine and many of you guys. And I know some of you guys have the similar experience because you've commented in some of my previous videos where I shared my story of visiting the Rolex AD. It's like you walk in and immediately they're just letting you know they don't have the timepiece that you want. But luckily for Luke, he was a celebrity and he basically said that he's gonna be performing at Madison Square Garden and wanted to wear the timepiece. And right away, the salesperson was like, oh, interesting. Okay, we might have something in the back for you. And somehow a Rolex magically appeared in the back for Luke. Now let's talk about his second story where he purchased an 18 karat gold Rolex Submariner. And the story behind it was rather interesting because he missed the birth of his child.
I bought watches to commemorate these big moments in my life, right? I mean, that's
the accolades.
Enjoy it. It brings me. It's some sort of physical manifestation of this moment in a way to remember it. Outside of and my second son Bo was born actually while I was in Australia.
Congratulations.
And so that was a really tough day for me. I did get to be there, thanks to technology. I was able to kind of be a part of that process. But I bought this watch to commemorate, his birth and.
Now, I guess he was busy working, trying to provide for the family, which is great. But the story behind it was his child came 2 weeks early, so I guess it wasn't in the schedule so that he could actually be there for the birth. So he pretty much purchased this timepiece as, I guess, a remembrance or for his child. And he does plan on gifting it to his child, his son, I believe, at the age of 18. The third story that stood out to me was Luke receiving his first AP Royal Oak from his manager and agent. I think the two of them combined and gifted him his first AP Royal Oak, which I believe is amazing. I've never received a wristwatch as a gift, but I believe that is something great to give to someone as a reward because of their achievement. I think they'll actually remember that moment and you for gifting them that timepiece. I want you guys to comment down below if you've ever received a wristwatch as a gift and tell me which wristwatch and the reason why that person gifted you this timepiece. And the last story that stood out to me in this video, which I appreciate, was Nico sharing his experience of purchasing a fake Rolex watch. The reason behind purchasing this fake Rolex wasn't a good one. Hey guys, it was a fake Rolex, but I guess it was a lesson learned for him and he grew from that, and you guys can see what he turned into as far as today.
I remember a time with a good friend, he's still a very good friend of mine, when we were grown up at 15, 16 and we were going to Marbella. We saved a few quid. Marbella is like a place in Spain where people go out, right?
Yep.
And buying a watch there to fill a gap, which for me was insecurity, because I always thought if I wore a Rolex I would be successful, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I wanted to show a level of success I didn't have. I cheated my way towards that at the time. And
as he mentioned in the video, the reason for purchasing this timepiece was basically to fill a gap. There was some sort of insecurity there, and he purchased the timepiece to fill a gap so that people can look at him as someone that's successful, which I think many of us has been in this position. Maybe not to the point of purchasing a fake Rolex, but maybe just to purchase a watch in general. So I kind of appreciated Nico for sharing that story. I guess it took some courage to share that. No one wants to admit that they purchased a fake watch because they were insecure and wanted people to think, that they were the shit or whatever. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm freezing out here. I want you guys to comment down below any stories you have with a timepiece that you've received as a gift or that you've purchased yourself that has some type of meaningful story behind it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Give the video a like, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for the next video.